It's a great day in SimWorld, everybody. Good morning and welcome to SimWorld Today. I'm B Ron. Alongside me is my co-host Marsh. Good morning, man. How you doing?
I'm good, B-Ron. How you doing? Feeling better
Doing
today?
Yeah, I'm doing a bit better today. I've had some time to decompress and process the trauma, if you will, of
Yeah.
losing the other day, and we're getting back to business somewhat. And let's jump right into the show, shall we? Because we've seen some great performances over the course of the start of this SWBA season so far. Luka Doncic most recently 73 against the Hawks. There's been a great uptick in the amount of these kinds of games this season. We have multiple 60-point, 70-point games this season from various different players across the league. And what is, in your opinion, what's been the biggest reason for that? Because I have a few things that I could go into, but I'll let you start first. So we're on the same page here.
Sure, and I don't think that this is necessarily the most recent uptick from stars, right? This isn't
Right.
just a 60, 70-point game. This is the fact that over the last decade, what was the best offense in the NBA is now statistically the worst. And it's teams taking a ultra analytical approach to these three-pointers. They're hitting at a much higher rate. They're much more efficient. The two-pointers are still going in as much as they are, but we've seen that a complete dismissal of mid-range jumpers outside of the superstars, outside of the Kevin Durant's, the Devin
Mm-hmm.
Bookers, the SGAs. Those guys that can still hit there at a 45 to 50% clip are still taking those shots, but you've eliminated a lot of the dead meat of basketball jumpers. And I don't know that that's really a good thing in basketball on the long run. These exceptionally high scoring games, they're awesome to watch from an individual player output, but the
Mm-hmm.
product itself, I think, is deteriorating away from an actual two-sided basketball approach, especially with the way that defense is now being called. The way the
Yeah.
defense is defensing, it's just not efficient. It's not good for the league, and it puts defenders in just these almost impossible situations where they cannot actually defend anybody physically. I know the hand checking rules have kind of been eliminated, but they just can't be physical at all on the defensive end, which just allows these really great shooters and scorers to just basically go, for lack of a better term, unchecked.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna say. I think it's both those things. It's a combination of, I think, the scorers getting better and being able to do what they do best, but also the defense is not being able to do what they do and defend. We talk about it all the time in various different sports. They've been catered toward the offense because that's what people like, and that's what makes it entertaining to watch for some people,
Yeah.
which is fair and totally fine. I'm not gonna argue and say that someone's opinion on that is wrong because you're allowed to like what you like and how you like it. But
Yeah.
I think that there comes a point in time when the pendulum swings too far one direction, and we're getting to that point now with the basketball, but with basketball in particular, where the scoring is becoming a it's becoming so much of a factor to where
Hmm.
these 70-point 60 plus point individual performance by players aren't as impressive as maybe they once were because they happen so often. It's not like I know hitter in baseball where they don't happen as often and they're so special. If they happen, every week or so, sure, it loses luster. So I think that it's a combination of the defense not being able to play and do what they do best and defend, and scores just getting more and more uh better as time has gone on.
Well, I think SimWorld Prep is actually a great microcosm of where the game of basketball can go to a better future. Now, SimWorld Prep made the decision last season to move the 3-point line back to 24 feet. And that we didn't see that initial impact on 3-point shooting last season was 3-point shooting bonanza. This
Yeah.
season, guys that a year ago were efficient guys like Nas Hall. I know I use him example tongue in cheek quite a bit. He's still a really great basketball player, but you look at the huge decline that he has had as a 3-point shooter. Then you look to SWU, where guys like Evangelos Mullins is a 40% 3-point shooter. Lorenzo Phenom is a 40% 3-point shooter at the college level where the 3-point line is shorter. What's been good about that is that this season we've started to see those 3-point percentages dip, and these games are
Mhm.
much more competitive from a defensive standpoint because they don't have high efficiency, very easily made, more valuable 3-point shots. And I think if you
Right.
look further on, if you want to look at SWU and SWBA, that's where I think the game needs to go. It's moving the 3-point line back. We did this. The NBA, we didn't, but the NBA did this back when Wilt Chamberlain was dominating. They made the
Right.
lane wider. They didn't allow you to just post up for minutes on end in the paint because Wilt Chamberlain was so unstoppable. And while there isn't a singular star, you
Right.
can make the case Steph Curry is, there's so many that are so great at shooting the three. I mean, Grayson Allen is shooting nearly 50% from deep. That's
That's
completely
insane.
changed the landscape of the game of basketball, and I think we've seen better product at the SimWorld Prep level where three-pointers are so much more inefficient and so much more valuable to have a good player that can take them.
Right, yeah, when you have players who excel at that skill set, that makes them more valuable, Marsh, exactly, exactly, and when you have if you have 5 guys on a team who can shoot 50% from 3-point, like, that's cool because all of them can do that, but that makes it kind of easy for defense to kinda do what they do in that regard and stop and slow them down because you can game plan around that. You can take away that 3, then they gotta come inside. And at the prep
That,
level, we've seen it. We've seen it come into
right.
play where if teams have to come inside, we have some elite uh interior defenders here. Trey Hyman, Jermaine Owens,
Yeah.
Victoria Ilgauskas come to mind. So a lot of that takes away a lot of what those 3-point specialists do well.
Yeah, I think it's an onus right now on the SWBA to address this issue before it's not irreversible, but before people stop caring. Because if we're going to continue to have exciting games, quote unquote, 140 to 135, that's going to get old pretty quick. And when it suddenly erases defense actually mattering, I think the product is gonna deteriorate in the long run.
Yeah, when everyone's elite, no one is. But speaking of
Exactly.
speaking of elite though, the Philadelphia Elite are playing
Great segue. Great
extremely.
segue, B
Hey,
Rob.
you like that, right? Yeah, we're
Phenomenal.
on
Let's
one
let's not
today,
just
man.
roll right in. I was like, well done.
Thank you, I appreciate that. The Philadelphia Elite, man, these kids are playing extremely, extremely well right now. They own the longest win streak in SimWorld Prep right now. They're at 6 in a row right now. That is insane. They are fourth, tied for third, actually, in the Founders region at 8-3 with the Beast of the East for defending champions. This is a huge deal. They're 5-0 in their last 5, extremely hot. Um, what how long can they keep this up, man? At a loss for words. All right.
I mean, I think if you look at their schedule, this I think is an indicator that if they don't make it to, and coaches are going to get upset about this. I don't care. If they don't make it into at least the round of 8, if they don't make it quarterfinals or further, I think this is a disappointment because they have shown the ability to beat top tier teams, and maybe they're not going to walk away with disappointment. I'm going to be disappointed if I don't see them make it that far because if you look at who they've beat, Heartland Zombie Stars, Originators, Raining Trays, Rocky Mountain, they've continued to beat down on Showtime, who's now falling apart. They have beaten teams that you would consider to be near or at the top of
Yeah.
SimWorld Prep. If you just were to do a quick kind of run through, sure, they've lost to Lakeshore Drive and Cascadia, 2 teams, and Beast of the East for that matter, teams that you'd expect to be up there, but they've gone toe to toe with these teams. And if they're not there, they've had such a great finish that allow them to be in that situation right now.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And I had said it before the season even started, Marsh. I was very confident in this team, and the fact that they were going to be much better than they were last season. Coach Drees, came in last season the way through and was starting to structure the team around what he wanted to run and that kind of thing. And this season, he's had his full off-season recruiting to really shape the team how he wants to,
Yeah.
and he's done that, and he's built on what was a solid defensive foundation last season carried over into this season. We've seen them, again, beat teams like the OGs that come to mind. They're one of the top teams in the league right now. They're
And it,
so good, and I feel
yeah.
like you said, Marsh, that getting to that final four, the fatal four stage, or the top 8 stage, one of those two, was is my kind of ceiling for them in terms of how I'm looking at it in terms of success and failure, that kind of thing. And again, like you said, the coaches and fans probably gonna be upset about us putting those kinds of expectations on them. But
Mhm.
if we don't, if we're sitting here, we're just like, oh, they'll be good or whatever. It's not fun, right? It's not fun for anybody. Talk like that about
No,
anything.
and well, I think this whole run, I think, has to be a huge credit to Coach Dries Williams. I mean, he has completely altered what this team was a year ago. They were 13-18. They were a worse record than SimWorld Atlantis. They were a worse record than Asia Pacific. They had next to nothing behind Nas Hall, who was their top guy.
Mhm.
Dries Williams has reshaped this roster in one offseason, brought in pieces that you were mentioning fit what he wants to do, and he's done it flawlessly to a point where I don't know that any other coach that had great success last year is replicating it on the same level that Dries Williams has done this season to reshape, rebuild, and bring in talent that fits exactly what he wants to do is shocking because it was almost a disappointing kind of closeout last season. Like there was almost a
Mhm.
little bit of this rough taste in your mouth that you felt like, man, we just felt there should have been more.
Right. You need a little more
He's
time.
delivered on that.
Yeah, exactly. He delivered on it marvelously, and from one thing that's done it well to one that really hasn't. Showtime basketball. I know Marsh. I know you've been very critical on this team for quite some time now. They have some talent there. Cole Webb, Bryce James, who might not be there for much longer if rumors are true. LeBron James allegedly is upset with how Bryce is being used this season. And they have talent there, but they they haven't put it together, and they're sitting at sixth in the Neo region at 5-6. That's no, it's unacceptable in my opinion. They have not won their last 5 games. They're 0-5 in their last 5 game losing streak. This is, in my opinion, unacceptable from Showtime basketball with the level of talent that's both in California and in that West Coast area, and the fact that this team, their name is Showtime. You should expect better from this team, and maybe that's on us for having lots of expectations of the media. Boo hoo! But when do you stop believing in Showtime?
Well, I stopped believing him when we're literally doing the same thing that we did last year. The definition of
Hmm.
insanity is doing the same thing and expecting a different
Expecting
result.
different
And the
results.
name on the back of the jersey is different. It's Cole Webb. It's an Australian. It's not a kid from Akron's son. But this is the
One of them
same
still there though.
basketball team. This is a team that is reliant overly on one singular star, one guy that can go out and granted can be a phenomenal basketball player. Cole Webb, this I don't think is a knock on him at any stance. He's a great basketball player. He's a great scorer. He has delivered on the promise that many had of him, or the hope of him to come to Showtime and be an impactful player that he just couldn't be last season for a team in Oceania that just the roster wasn't really there. He's
Mhm.
elevated his game. But the problem is the Showtime's doing the exact same thing. They have no secondary piece. They look lost when nobody else is out there. When Cole Webb sits, this team completely falls apart. And it's not for a lack of good talent. You mentioned Bryce James and LeBron James not being overly excited about the way he's being used, as you should be. Bryce
Yeah.
James is a really talented basketball player. We saw last season Corey Yams was relegated to mop-up duty until the unfortunate incident with Bronny James, and suddenly Corey Yams started to produce. There's a lot of really great basketball players on this team that are just pigeonholed into situations that don't allow them to succeed. And it's the exact same thing that we did last year. So truthfully, this 5 game losing streak that they're on against, granted, a handful of teams that we'd expect to see at the top, or at least be contenders at the end of it, that's all understandable, but this is almost a regression to the mean after that hot start. This wasn't a great basketball team based purely off the game plan that they've had in place, and that
Mhm.
has now come to fruition over the last 5 games for them. And I don't know that this ends, and I don't know if you can continue it with the current coaching staff in place.
Well, look, we'll see what's gonna happen with all of that. Put our hands, hey, we gonna see, we gonna see. Well, look, we gotta get out of here. Thank y'all for joining us on SimWorld today. We appreciate you as always. Remember, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notify bell to know when all of our videos, all of our streams, all of our shows here on SimWorld TV go live in March. Outro, my friend. It's all you.
We got one more day of no Hoops, and then we're back Wednesday, Thursday. So make sure you're liking, commenting, subscribing, turn the notifications on so you do not miss a minute of SimWorld prep and SimWorld Hoop action.
This has been a presentation of SimWorld Sports.